Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be checking out a full AQ map 7 run. Well, it's almost a full run. Somebody had taken first two of my fights just because when I checked first nobody had started the path, and then when I checked back 40 minutes later a teammate of mine took first two of my spider paths. But anyways, this week we basically section 1 is the spider people with lots of evades and rage and safeguard and stuff like that. And the spider one in particular has safeguard on it, therefore Venom's damage over time debuffs plus ability to shut down their evade is pretty much key and makes him perfect for any and all of these spider paths. In section 2 I'm on Incinerate, and then section 3 it's minor aspect of nightmares, I believe, which is actually quite handy. I like that node because it helps you heal in conjunction with recovery mastery. But anyway, so first we need to deal with this Spider Gwen. As I mentioned before, she has safeguard on it, and that just makes those bleed effects Venom has all that more important, because we are able to bypass that damage limitation basically with our bleeds and damage over time effects. And 48 hits in the fight, a rank 4 Venom takes down that Spider Gwen, so it's definitely not a difficult fight at all for Venom. For many champions though, this would be a fairly tricky path to do. And now we have OG Spider-Man, and he has enhanced special 1, which isn't the biggest problem to be fair. And yeah, once again we're just gonna be trying to mince through him as fast as we can using our Venom. This is actually, I believe, like first time I ever take Venom in a queue, so that's something. But yeah, so here we can see that the Spidey is going down well. We are dodging his punches in level 1 just in time, because those are the ones that are unblockable, not his web hits. Then we had 8 bleeds on him, 30 hits, and he goes down. So yeah, Venom has some really great damage potential for sure. And now, since I had a couple of my first fights taken away, I decided I'm just gonna go in and take somebody else first fight away. So this is Incinerate Strike Back node. I also get a battery warning, but I'm like, yeah, Ghost can take this, why not, right? And I do not have suicides on currently, so Ghost damage output isn't like up there as it normally is. However, we're still dealing more than good enough damage, I suppose. Here we nail in a cheeky intercept just because he got hesitant. He didn't want to attack me in my face, so I had to take matters in my own hands. And now basically I just need to close out this fight. Now that he threw his level 2, I'm gonna drop my level 2 in response, and that will finish off the fight. So super quick fight, nothing difficult over there. 1 level 2 and the fight was over. And now we're moving on to the next fight. Just because I didn't go to bed too early last night, I did manage to snag that Unstoppable Colossus for myself, but not before somebody had taken care of that Emma Frost and Omega Red mini boss already. And yeah, we're going to be using our Night Rusher for this fight, even though Night Rusher is not really the perfect matchup for it, just because you have to wait out that Unstoppable a lot, and that is also a time your debuffs might be expiring. And this fight was quite late in the night, so there will be some sloppy mistakes. However, the fight overall didn't go too bad, aside from like a couple slip-ups. So as we can see here, that Unstoppable definitely is interfering with me being able to refresh my debuffs. So it leaves me with very little time to kind of like nail in my special attacks or heavy attacks. However, so far we did manage to get up to 2 debuffs. They still haven't expired, so that's perfect. We're going to refresh them with our heavy attack. We got our taunt, which is excellent. Nailing our 3rd debuff, simultaneously building our furies, which is exactly what we want. At this point I do, however, have to bait out that level 2 from him, and that leaves me with very little time to refresh my debuffs. And I thought if I just throw my level 1 while he's unstoppable, they might refresh, but no, they didn't. However, it's not the biggest deal. We still have our furies, we get a debuff back, and now we just need to be a bit more careful not to slip up again. And yeah, so we're gonna drop our heavy right here. That was quite a juicy heavy as well. It crit for over 10k, which is fantastic. And now we're gonna drop another level 1. We are at 10 furies. Now the more debuffs we have on our opponent, the more damage we are also doing, because that is one of Night Rusher's abilities. he increases his critical damage per each debuff on opponent. So it is kind of important to try and have as many as you possibly can. And at this point, we're dropping heavy attack, getting our taunt back on. We have 4 debuffs, which is pretty much the maximum that we can get using Night Rusher if we're not running any synergies. However, there I do make a slip up and need a couple of hits in my face, but luckily he didn't go for a full combo. And yeah, so we have taken him down quite low. Unluckily, our level 2 didn't crit here at all, despite that precision buff. But he's at 22%, so not too much left on him at all. Now I do need to have like good timing here on my level 1. As we saw, our debuffs almost expired once again. But the fight is nearly over. And yeah, he is at the last 10%. I basically just need to nail in like a good heavy attack or something, which is what we do right now. 2%, he's ticking away. Last heavy attack, the fight is over. So it wasn't the smoothest fight, however, it was definitely not the worst fight either, especially considering that Night Rusher is not generically too good of a matchup because of those unstoppables. And now at that point I did go to bed, and the next morning I'm jumping on my section 2. As I mentioned before, my section 2 is Incinerate, and I do have Ghost and Night Rusher that can take these fights, but I kind of just prefer to use Night Rusher because yeah, I find him fun. And yeah, so first Moon Knight. Also Moon Knight's await gets shut off by Night Rusher's skateboard attacks, which is kind of perfect for us. And while we are dexing or parrying under bar power, we are gaining quite a bit of power, so that's what I did on purpose. It's kind of like Stark Spidey building up his poise charges, I suppose. But in this case we're gaining power instead, so we can pretty much almost immediately start off with a level 1 if we want to. Now I do make occasional mistakes again, that Moon Knight's double medium, just because I always forget about it and I don't really expect it. So he clipped me here once again. Luckily it's just a couple of hits and it's not the biggest of the deal. It's super early in the morning still. I believe you guys are going to see my Uber notifications as well, because I was waiting for a taxi in the morning as I was doing these AQ fights. But nonetheless, so at this point we are at 9 Furies, and that Moon Knight is going down really quickly, dropping another heavy attack. Those Uber icons. And yeah, so now he's at 20%. I basically just need to land a couple more hits at him. He's gonna be down because we're at 10 Furies. He's max debuffed, so our damage output is quite good. And that was Uber cancelling on me, by the way, and I was late for work. But oh well, happens, I suppose. Was not the perfect start to the morning. Anyways, next fight, Gwenpool. Now Gwenpool also has strike back on her, so I do need to be careful when I throw my special attacks. I do not want to accidentally give her too much power and let her get to level 3, so you always kind of have to be mindful about this fight. Also the fact that your special attacks cannot kill Gwenpool, so yeah, it is one of those kind of like tricky, cheeky kebab nodes, but regardless, so now we're nailing another dex, so we're getting some extra power. We have our first debuff on Gwenpool, and now we're dropping our second level 2 to gain the second gadget debuff, which is Incinerate in this case. But once again, something happened with my parry. I don't know what, and I end up eating Gwenpool's level 2, so that's not too great of a fight here. However, for most part, I believe the rest of the fight is going to be alright. We finally did get our taunt on. We're starting to build our Furies, which is perfect. And yeah, we're just going to nail a heavy attack, refresh the taunt and the rest of the debuffs. We have 9-10 Furies at this point, and now we just dropped a heavy that dealt a lot of damage. Another couple of hits, the fight is over. Aside from eating that level 2 to the face, it wasn't kind of like the worst of the fights, I guess, but yeah, that quite often is enough to knock your champions out. And you will have noticed that I have made a slip up in pretty much every fight I used Night Rusher so far, against UC, against Moon Knight, against Gwenpool, and I'm still kicking. I'm still at 41%. That is just definitely a nice testament to how beefy this guy is. He can definitely forgive you for a lot of mistakes. He has increased physical resistance. He's really bulky. He can definitely take some hits to the face and keep on going. And now we're taking on Yondu. So Yondu was unblockable at the beginning of the fight. We had to wait it out. And now that that's over, it's a very simple fight. Just need to be careful we do not take any of his light hits in our block, because those can cause bleed and can be extremely problematic. But other than that, we're doing just fine. Now dropping a couple of heavy attacks in a row, because why not? We have our taunt on, we started building our furies, and everything is going basically just as we wanted. I'm gonna drop my level 1 once again to get the third debuff on him, so we can increase our damage even further. And we're dropping another level 1. At this point we're at 9 furies and he's nearly dead. And yeah, that is pretty much Night Rusher classic, I suppose. And that about does it for my fights in section 2. Now we're going to be moving on to section 3, because I believe I missed an Omega mini boss once again. Now in section 3 I will have a couple more fights, well, at least a couple bit interesting fights, I suppose. So section 3, I have minor aspect of nightmares. What it does, it takes away 25% of your health within first 12 seconds and then gives it all back to you. However, if you are running recovery mastery, that is actually a good thing, because you gain a kind of like an extra profit, 15% health from whatever they're taken away. So it definitely works out well. I do not mind these nodes at all whatsoever, especially the minor ones. Aspect of nightmares can be a bit and more annoying, because if your champion is below 50% health, you're simply gonna die at the beginning of the fight. However, this minor one is quite alright. I do like it. I think it's actually quite helpful, especially if you're not running suicides. But yeah, so now we have Falcon to deal with. Aside from that aspect of Nightmare's node, he doesn't really have much going on for him. He did start with like a bar power, but who cares? Like, we had to eat a level 1 in the block, right? So we drop a level 2. Unfortunately, pretty much none of it crits, and then I realized that I forgot to build my furies in this fight. That was quite silly of me. So now towards the end of the fight we do get the taunt. However, I do drop my special in block by accident, and so not the best fight, I suppose. Yeah, I completely forgot about building the furies. However, the next fight is quite interesting, because that is technically not on my path, and the node on that one is Pleasure to Burn. I know many people are complaining about this node, and it is quite annoying, because there aren't all that many Incinerate champions. However, Night Rusher does have access to Incinerate, and does have a reliable 100% access to Incinerate, just because it will always trigger on your level 1, and you can refresh it, and you can make sure opponent is incinerated throughout the entire fight. Therefore, Night Rusher is an absolutely amazing option for all Pleasure to Burn nodes, just because, yeah, so starting like my first level 1, we can see that the opponent is incinerated, and we have absolutely nothing to worry about. We can damage him as normal. We keep that incinerate refreshed. It's on at all times, and it will be still active by the time we finish this fight up. Therefore, yeah, if you are looking for good Pleasure to burn champions, Night Rusher is definitely a solid option, especially considering how well and how high he can amp up his damage. So like in this case, you can see that now we're at 6 furies, but already by this point he's at 28%. So typical fight lasts about a minute with Night Rusher, about 40 hits or so. It just kind of depends how quickly you get the taunt on. But yeah, so minute and 10 seconds, Hulk goes down on Pleasure to Burn node. Absolutely nothing difficult over there. Now I do have a couple last fights on my path left, and we're going to be using Venom for this one, just because kind of why not, I suppose. And yeah, so with that, against this iron package, I do need to be careful towards the end, because first of all, he has a recovery on him as well, so he's going to be regenerating a lot. But other than that, obviously he gets that power burst at the end, and sometimes shamefully, I have to admit, it has caught me off guard a couple of times. So now I typically, when I play this guy, I like to keep an eye on his power and basically bait out his level 1 as soon as he reaches, for most part anyways. And yeah, so luckily Iron Patriot also is a champion that does have armor buffs, and those Venom likes a lot because he can eat them and he can heal from them, and it's overall quite awesome. But yeah, so at this point he drops his level 1 and he triggers his Arc Overload. I tried to kind of like eat those buffs in time, however I did not manage. I only ate the regen when it was almost expired anyways. However, after Arc Overload he does take a lot more damage because all of his armor is gone and he's very susceptible to any damage whatsoever. He's become so fragile, and I have no idea why they made him like that, but hey, that's iron package for you. Anyways, the fight is over. Venom had that one taken care of. And now I do have the last fight in this IQ, because afterwards I just missed then all boss action. However, this guy is still noded, so he has minor aspect of nightmares and he's noded with pleasure to burn. And I figured since Night Thrasher worked out so well for that Hulk, we might as well just take him in. We have 30% of the health, so we will be able to survive that minor aspect of nightmares. And once we do, we are going to be in pretty much perfect position to counter this guy. Now, yes, he's a bit bulkier. He is 65k PI, but still, it's just Venom the Duck. It's nothing kind of like supernatural in him. He has no airways, no auto block, no tricky to evade special attacks, especially if we stick to baiting level 1s. And this will also serve as a great chance to showcase Night Thrasher's damage, because most of the fights are pretty much over by the time he gets to the 10 Furies. But in this case, we will be able to get to the 10 Furies and actually deal some meaningful hits with them active. So we will be able to see how hard this guy can actually hit. And this is Night Thrasher without any synergies, without Guillotine, without Darkhawk, because with those guys, his damage output increases by about 70%, 60%, so he could be dealing a lot more damage. But this is just bare bone Night Thrasher, so definitely some solid heavy attacks as we can see there. We still have plenty of time. We have 1 minute and 40 seconds left on timer. He's already halfway down, but do keep in mind that first kind of like 40 seconds of the fight typically is a ramp up. And yeah, so 65k Venom the Duck is getting absolutely smacked now, dropping another level 2 of the hits crit, not too bad, 22% left on him. And yeah, he's just absolutely melting away. He was quite high up, I would say 20 seconds ago, and now Night Thrasher just absolutely annihilated him. But yes, that will more or less do about today's video. Unfortunately, I did get busy later on when it came down to Thanos action and missed that. But anyways, guys, I hope you liked today's video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. See ya.